I'll never forget that St. Patrick's Day, the year when the line between celebration and nightmare blurred before my eyes. I was in a small, time-worn town on the outskirts of Boston, a place with a rich Irish heritage where every corner whispered old legends. That evening, I stepped into O'Malley's pub, a historic watering hole said to be haunted by secrets of generations past. I swear, what happened that night was real. It was around 9 p.m. and the pub was buzzing with the usual St. Patrick's Day cheer, laughter, clinking glasses, and the soft strains of a fiddle playing in the background. The air carried a hint of mischief and old lore. I settled onto a stool near the back, drawn by an inexplicable pull to a dim corner where an old man sat alone, his eyes shadowed beneath a worn flat cap. I remember thinking, there's something about him, as if he's seen too much. At first, I chalked it up to the spirit of the holiday, perhaps a touch of melancholy amid the revelry. But as the night wore on, the lights began to flicker, and a chill seeped through the room, even though the fire in the hearth roared warmly. Just as the clock struck 10, a hush fell over the room. Every conversation paused, even the lively fiddle music seemed to falter. I felt a magnetic pull towards that secluded corner. The old man's gaze lifted to meet mine, and in his eyes I saw both sorrow and warning. Then, in the farthest shadow of the room, I noticed him. A figure in a worn Irish suit, his presence barely perceptible at first. He was a man of spectral beauty, dressed as if from another era, with piercing eyes that burned like embers and a subtle green shimmer around him. Clutched in his hand was an old, tarnished shamrock pendant. As he moved, he seemed to glide rather than walk, making no sound on the creaking wooden floor. The atmosphere thickened. A low hum, like distant bagpipes, resonated softly, reverberating through my bones. The old man in the corner began to murmur something in Gaelic. I couldn't understand his words, but his tone carried both desperation and longing. I felt compelled to follow the spectral figure. As I got up, the chatter of the pub resumed, but it was as if time had momentarily fractured. The laughter, the clinking of glasses, all seemed to fade into an eerie background murmur. I trailed him out of the main room and down a narrow hallway lined with faded photographs and peeling wallpaper. Each step echoed as I passed portraits of long-departed ancestors, their eyes seemingly watching my progress. At the end of the hall, I discovered a door I hadn't noticed before, slightly ajar. A sliver of cold, damp air leaked out, carrying with it the faint sound of weeping. Pushing the door open, I found myself in a cramped, candlelit room that looked untouched for decades. Dust motes danced in the flickering candlelight, and in the center of the room stood a battered wooden table covered in relics, old letters, a faded photograph of a young woman, and a diary bound in cracked leather. The spectral figure stood by the table, his back turned to me. I could almost feel the weight of his regret. Unable to resist, I approached the table. The photograph, yellowed with age, depicted a beautiful Irish woman with sorrowful eyes. The diary's first page bore a single line, "To my dearest Moira, on this day of saints, I shall find you, no matter the cost." I realized then that the ghost was bound by a lost promise, a promise made on St. Patrick's Day, when love and fate intertwined. I heard a soft whisper behind me, "Do you believe in true love?" I spun around to see the old man from the pub standing there, his expression grave. "This ghost," he continued quietly, "was once Sean O'Connor, a young man who vowed on St. Patrick's Day to reunite with his beloved Moira. But tragedy struck when she vanished without a trace. Ever since, every St. Patrick's Day, his spirit returns to this very pub, desperate to find her and complete the last toast they once shared." The weight of his words sank in. I felt an inexplicable sadness, a shared longing that spanned time and death. As the ghost slowly turned to face me, his eyes bore into mine. In them, I saw the pain of endless waiting and the burden of a promise unfulfilled. For a moment, I felt as if I had been marked, destined to carry his story forward. Suddenly, the room darkened and the candles flickered violently, as if the room itself was trying to warn me. The ghost's voice, now soft and almost musical, spoke again. Tonight you must help me. If not for me, then for Moira. Let the truth be told. I found myself unable to speak, drawn into a trance-like state as the ghost extended his hand towards the diary. The pages fluttered open to a passage that detailed a ritual, a final farewell, and a chance for redemption. The diary spoke of a midnight gathering in the old graveyard on the edge of town, where the souls of the departed were said to mingle with the living. It mentioned that on St. Patrick's Day, if one performed the ritual correctly, the spirit of true love could finally cross over to the afterlife, unburdened by earthly regret. The words chilled me, but the ghost's pleading eyes left no room for refusal. I stepped out of the secret room, the diary clutched in my trembling hands, and joined the ghost as he led me through winding back alleys to the graveyard. The night was unusually cold, and a thick fog had settled over the tombstones. As we approached, I could see a small gathering of figures, a mix of locals and other spectral presences, all drawn by an ancient rite. Under a full moon, the ghost began to chant softly in Gaelic. I followed his lead, reciting the incantations from the diary. The air grew heavy, and the fog swirled around us like restless spirits. Suddenly, in the midst of the ceremony, a soft glow emanated from one of the graves. The earth trembled, and with a burst of light, a young woman emerged. A vision of Moira, her features ethereal and glowing with a bittersweet luminescence. Time seemed to stop. Sean's spectral form reached out, his longing evident as he moved towards Moira. Their eyes locked in a silent, tearful reunion, and for a heartbeat I believed that love had triumphed over death. But as the reunion unfolded, the glow faded, and Moira's figure began to dissolve into the mist. A sorrowful wail echoed through the graveyard, a sound of both release and eternal mourning. The ghost of Sean collapsed to his knees, a single tear sliding down his translucent cheek. I felt an overwhelming sadness, as if the entire graveyard was grieving with him. Then, as quickly as it had started, the ceremony ended. The fog receded, the spectral figures vanished, and the night fell silent once more. I returned to O'Malley's pub, my heart heavy and my mind reeling with what I had witnessed. The old man was gone, and the patrons, once oblivious, carried on with their celebrations as if nothing unusual had happened. But I knew the truth. I had seen the echo of a promise, the torment of a love unfulfilled, and the desperate longing of a ghost doomed to wander each St. Patrick's Day. I still remember that night vividly. The whispered Gaelic chants, the trembling of ancient earth, and the final, heart-rending reunion that left me forever changed. Every time St. Patrick's Day comes around, I can't help but feel that the past is never truly gone, and that some spirits still roam, seeking what was lost long ago. I share this story not to spook you, but to remind you that sometimes the line between myth and reality is thinner than we think. And on certain nights, especially when the world is celebrating ancient traditions, our hearts might just be open enough to listen to the voices of those long departed. Based on events I swear were true, at least I believe they were. Take this story as a warning. On the night of celebration, when the air is filled with joy and mirth, keep an ear out for the whispers of the past. They may be calling you to remember or to set things right once more. Some stories are just that, stories. Others have a way of lingering. If this one sent chills down your spine, let us know in the comments, and please subscribe. There's a chance your tale might make it into a future episode, so you'll definitely want to come visit again. Tell me, what's the scariest thing that's ever happened to you? I'm truly curious. Or, if you dare, share a legend from your hometown. Do you believe in ghosts? Or do you think some legends are more than just myths? Like, subscribe and ring the bell, because some stories don't end when the video stops. And if you hear something strange tonight, maybe it's just the wind. Maybe it's not.